Hi guys, you're going to hear from Mr. Šefčovič, who is the Vice President of the European Commission, about the deal that he and Michael Gove have hammered out. Now, the UK government have decided or have agreed to remove certain aspects of the internal market bill which were in breach of international law. They were undermining the Northern Ireland Protocol and, of course, undermining the withdrawal agreement, which, of course, further undermines peace in Northern Ireland. Now, he's going to explain how the UK has removed these aspects, and eventually I'm going to tell you why the UK actually put them in there in the first place. So let's hear what he had to say.
Following the intensive and constructive work over the past few weeks, Chancellor Gove and I were able to reach an agreement in principle on all issues. Given the limited time before the transition period ends, it was essential to reach a shared understanding on these questions so that the withdrawal agreement can be fully operational as of 1st of January 2021. Our objective has been clear all along: to protect the Good Friday Belfast Agreement, maintain peace, stability and prosperity on the island of Ireland, and preserve the integrity of the EU's single market. I particularly welcome that, as stated in our joint statement, in view of these mutually agreed solutions, the UK will withdraw clauses 44, 45 and 47 of the UK Internal Market Bill and not introduce any similar provisions in the taxation bill. We will continue to follow this closely and make sure the contentious provisions are effectively withdrawn. The agreement reached in principle and the resulting draft texts will now be subject to their respective internal procedures in the EU and in the UK. Still, tonight I will also brief the European Parliament, and once this is done, we will hold the 5th regular meeting of the EU-UK Joint Committee to formally adopt the text, and this will take place later this month.
Okay, so what has happened here? The UK implemented or introduced certain aspects of the Internal Market Bill, which would have allowed the UK ministers, government ministers, to act unilaterally when it came to deciding which goods are free to move from Great Britain into Northern Ireland. Now, by allowing that, it would have undermined the Northern Ireland Protocol and, of course, undermined the withdrawal agreement, and that would have been breaking international law. This was a law that the withdrawal agreement was something signed by both the EU and the UK, and the UK would have been breaking their agreement. Now, what was the alternative? What was the alternative on the European side? What have they compromised on? Well, one of the requirements the EU had as part of the Northern Ireland Protocol was to set up an office in Belfast to monitor how well the UK is maintaining its side of the bargain. Remember, Northern Ireland remains part of the UK, but the EU had requested to set up an office in Belfast where EU officials would be able to go to the border between the border in Northern Ireland that is in place between Great Britain and Northern Ireland to check to see if checks are being carried out. Now, the UK government has fought against that. They said, look, we don't want an EU office there. The compromise seems to be that the EU will instead have officials visit from time to time and not actually set up an office in Belfast. So this seems to be the compromise on the European side. The compromise on the UK side is to remove these aspects of the Internal Market Bill. Now, why did the UK introduce them in the first place? The reason being is that the UK needed leverage in the negotiations on Brexit, on the post-Brexit trade deal that they wanted to finalize later on in the year. Of course, we're in the transition period, and these talks that were taking place between Mr. Šefčovič and Michael Gove are completely separate to the trade talks that we know about in the news between Michel Barnier and David Frost. They're working towards a trade deal. These guys were dealing with something that's part of the withdrawal agreement, something that is written into European and UK law. So what Boris Johnson and his government were attempting to do was throw something that they had agreed already under a bus and use the threat of that as a bargaining chip in the trade negotiations. Now, the European Union at the time said, no, we're not going to go ahead with that. We're not going to go along with that. We're going to open arbitration against the UK. Now, I imagine this arbitration will be dropped, perhaps not immediately. The wheels are in motion and they're not going to be stopped immediately. And also, I don't think the EU trust Boris Johnson too much, so they're going to wait and see. But it will probably be dropped because the UK is planning to drop, or has officially said we're dropping these aspects of the internal market bill. But once again, this was a bargaining chip. This was an attempt to gain concessions from Michel Barnier, even though Michel Barnier and Mr. Šefčovič are not in the same room. They're not negotiating. They're not talking about the same things. Boris Johnson's government was basically willing to throw Northern Ireland under a bus, peace in Northern Ireland under a bus, in order to extract concessions somewhere else. Disgusting behaviour, but it is something you would normally expect from Brexiteers and Boris Johnson in particular. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?